I've never felt the touch of a woman. Bucks versus Panthers. Great job by Baker here to throw to his teammate for a touchdown. The teammate part being very important because he eventually forgot that you're not supposed to throw to guys in the other jerseys, which set up Carolina with a short field touchdown to make it 10-7. But remember, this is Bryce Young we're talking about, and he's complete dog shit, so he throws a terrible interception here on a noodle arm play. Here's a 6-point swing, though. The Panthers kicker missed a field goal, and then the Buccaneers made their field goal. And then the Panthers decided to do some stupid fucking flea flicker where the running back slipped and it was a fumble, but the Buccaneers had a field goal blocked, and then the Panthers eventually got down the field and scored a touchdown with 2.5 minutes left to make it a 2-point game. And then the final play was a little bit of some shenanigans here. Just what a bunch of silly gooses they are. And the Buccaneers ended up winning 16-14, but it would be the Panthers who had the last laugh as the Panthers ended up making the playoffs and the Buccaneers didn't, which made this entire game feel really useless. The video continues right after this short break.
Before I begin, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, DraftKings Sportsbook. It's hard to believe that we are already nearly through the NFL season, but it's true. And it's been a great ride thus far, but it's not over with. And DraftKings Sportsbook is here to make your experience even better for the rest of the season. New customers who bet $5 will get $300 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. And you know I got your back. You can sign up using my promo code Barry to have an even better time. You can stay in on the action and use your bonus bets on DraftKings same game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. Love the thrill of live betting? DraftKings has got you covered there too. You can bet live on in-progress games right as they're happening. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports and have the shot to win cash prizes. So what are you waiting for? New customers who bet $5 will get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Just sign up using my promo code Barry, and remember, DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Seahawks 49ers. The Seahawks drove down the field early on but came away with no points after turning it over on downs on the goal line, but then Zach Charbonnet ran for a touchdown to make it 7-0. Then the Seahawks got Scott Norwood out of retirement to miss this field goal wide right. Luckily for the Seahawks offense, their defense was on point and Brock Purdy struggled, particularly in the fourth quarter when the 49ers had a chance to make it a game. He threw a unlucky interception that Christian McCaffrey bobbled. He was just too busy thinking about respecting daughters in order to seal the catch there. And despite another badly missed field goal by Scott Norwood, the Seahawks ended up hanging on to win 13-3. Sam Darnold becomes the first quarterback in NFL history to win 14 games in back-to-back years without Spygate. Giants versus Dallas. Dak Prescott's career summed up in one play. Right. In a meaningless game for both teams, they fought back and forth, and the Cowboys had a lead for most of the first half, and then Jackson Dart had a nice little flip touchdown pass right before the end of the first half. Whenever the Giants need to lose games in the last 2 weeks of the season, they turn into the 85 Bears. It's hilarious. And this was no different as they ended up blowing the Cowboys out and winning this pretty decisively. Joe Milton came in for the second half, had an interception, and the Cowboys ended up giving up another touchdown to lose the game by 17. Don't worry, Giants fans. Remember, your GM is going to be back next season, so it gets even better. God, what a terrible franchise. Saints versus Falcons. That's right. In the NFL, two teams that are eliminated are going to determine which team would make the playoffs. In this case, it would be the Panthers, but nonetheless, this game was about as exciting as you would expect. It went down to the wire, even though Kirk Cousins started off a little bit shaky. The Saints couldn't get anything going offensively until Tyler Shuck ran for a score, and then the teams largely just traded field goals until the Saints had multiple drives in the fourth quarter with a chance to potentially take the lead, and they failed both times. Punting the first time, and then the biggest backbreaker was a red zone interception thrown by Shuck, which gave Peyton Manning, Tracy Porter vibes to it, and then the Falcons ended up kicking a field goal to go up by 9. There was this gorgeous one-handed snag for the Saints to cut it to 2, but it was all for naught as the Falcons recovered it to win 19-17, and despite the hot stretch to end the season, Raheem Morris is out of a job. My pick for next Falcons head coach? That's right, Kevin Patullo. Browns versus Bengals. I can't believe racism forced Shador to step up in the pocket and fumble here. It's just ridiculous. When it's a meaningless game, you know Joe Burrow's going to show up. But who didn't show up in this day was the Bengals kicker, missing 2 extra points. That would come in handy later. But the kicker wasn't responsible for Joe Burrow throwing this terrible interception, pick 6. which was returned the entire field to give the Browns a lead. And then, not only were there interceptions, there were fumbles as well. There was a fumble 6, which was also returned for a touchdown. Shedeur Sanders learning from Brady how to will his defense to score touchdowns. Burrow would then wake up and find T. Higgins on a great touchdown throw, but the extra point was no good. I mean, badly missed it. Jesus Christ. Fast forward to the fourth quarter, the Browns are up 5, and here was history being made. Myles Garrett recorded his 23rd sack. It wasn't quite as much of a dive as Brett Favre for Michael Strahan, but it wasn't quite as aesthetically pleasing as I would have hoped, but still, unbelievable performance this year by Myles Garrett, who, ironically enough, would be in jail right now if Mason Rudolph didn't have such a thick skull. But either way, Myles Garrett, yes, all-time great player. He is in that class with Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White, Aaron Donald, Bruce Smith. He's up there with those guys, whether you like it or not. Back to the game, Burrow would lead a go-ahead touchdown, throw to his butt buddy Jamar Chase to give the Bengals a 1-point lead after they failed on the 2-point conversion. And all those missed extra points and failed 2-point conversions would add up as Sanders put the Browns in position to win on a field goal as time expired, and that's what they did to win 20-18. Despite the good vibes after the game, the Silver Fox, Kevin Stefanski, was fired, while Zach Taylor kept his job because Mike Brown is doing Mike Brown things. In the end, nobody wins when these two franchises are involved. Vikings-Packers. When I tell you unironically that J.J. McCarthy is by far the best quarterback in a game, you probably wouldn't believe me, but that was the case here. McCarthy left the game early after, I guess, fracturing his hand, but not before helping the Vikings go out to a 13-0 lead. Let's check in on how Clayton Tune was doing in place of Jordan Love and Malik Willis. Yes, if there is one quarterback who might be worse than Max Brosmer, it was Clayton Tune. And here's Brosmer doing his magic. He stumbles, gets up, and then fumbles. Just literal greatness here. But the Packers' offense was so terrible that it didn't matter. And in fact, the only sign of effort they gave all day was with 1 second left when they rushed the field goal unit out there to kick a field goal to avoid getting shut out. This is the type of vanity that I appreciate. This was also the final game of Harrison Smith's career. Basically the Frank Gore of safeties. Like, I don't remember any play he ever had, but he was a good player, I guess. Texans versus Colts. After seeing how Riley Leonard played in this game, it's kind of fucked up the Colts thought that a 44-year-old obese man 5 years out of retirement was a better option. Maybe if they stuck with Leonard, they would have made the playoffs. Either way, there was some good quarterbacking in this game, and there was also some not so good quarterbacking, including a fumble which helped set up a C.J. Stroud touchdown run to give the Texans a double-digit lead, which would then be cut short after Riley Leonard led the Colts down with a nice touchdown pass to make it a 3-point game. And then eventually the Colts would go up in the third quarter with a Riley Leonard touchdown run. Deceptively athletic man scores once again, and they would hold that lead in the fourth quarter until a little boo-boo on Leonard's part. An interception in his own territory led to Houston retaking the lead, but then the Colts would retake the lead again with just under 3 minutes left on a field goal, but then Davis Mills stuck his neck out for the team, leading the Texans downfield for a field goal. And then of course you have the last play, which was just a bunch of shenanigans, which was end up returned for a score by the Texans to kind of juice up the final score a bit, 38-30. Ew! Jags versus Tits. Cam Ward's been coming on late in the season, and this was a great play running for a touchdown, but he also died because he got landed on and he left the game with a concussion, which honestly, who gives a fuck? The season's long over anyway. Trevor Lawrence continued his great stretch of play with a couple touchdown passes, and the Titans never came close to competing, especially after Brandon Allen threw this terrible pick six. And then Trevor Lawrence, I mean, they were just putting belt to ass to the Titans all game long. I don't know what else you can really have me say here. And also, just for shits and giggles, they had Brandon Little kick a 67-yard field goal. There's just something so aesthetically pleasing about a field goal starting out outside the uprights and then hooking back in through the uprights for a good kick. And then somehow they were very stupid to have Lawrence in up 27 in the fourth quarter, but it didn't turn out bad for them as they ended up winning 41-7, clinching the AFC South and going 13-4 despite getting virtually nothing out of the second overall pick in the draft, Travis Hunter. Rams versus Cardinals. Fast forward towards the end of the first half, just a ridiculous one-handed catch by Puka Nacua. Then to the third quarter, down 10, the Cardinals, who are 3-13, what the fuck, we have nothing to lose. It kind of fakes out the cameraman almost. Deep throw down the field for almost 30 yards. This is actually a longer pass in the air than Tom Brady had in about half of his Super Bowl wins. I'm not joking. And then Jacoby Brissett launched a missile to Michael Wilson, who has basically been what people thought Marvin Harrison Jr. was supposed to be. And in fact, late in the third quarter, what was supposed to be an easy win for the Rams going into their playoff run was kind of some sphincters were tight as the Cardinals took a lead. But my MVP pick, Matthew Stafford, said calm the fuck down, throwing a touchdown to put them up going into the fourth quarter. And then the fourth quarter was all Rams, and Stafford just throwing throwing more beautiful passes to end up winning the game 37-20. And then the real highlight of the game was getting to watch Jimmy Garoppolo take a knee. God, I just love watching him really just breathe and exist in general. Just what a man. And then also, yeah, the Cardinals fired Jonathan Gannon, which I think was the right move. But yeah, that franchise is just a complete clusterfuck. Thankfully, they only have about 3 fans. Lions versus Bears. The second most frustrating outcome of the day for me, as the Lions, some people expected them just to lay down, but they didn't. They went out and they went up. At one point, they were up 16-0, and the Bears and Caleb Williams were just jacking off for 3 quarters, including this incredibly clutch deep interception in the end zone. So yeah, 16-0 going into the 4th quarter, and then Caleb Williams finally decided to get serious. They go for 2, they make it an 8-point game, and then the Lions did this stupid fucking play call on 3rd and 1, which then led to the Bears getting the ball and scoring another touchdown to make it a 2-point game, and then a 2-point conversion to tie it up at 16 with 5 minutes left, and then Goff threw an interception to Eagles legend Kevin Byard, but the Bears could not do anything with it, and the Lions went down and kicked a game-winning field goal. The entire time I was saying, oh, well, the Bears are going to win, which makes the Eagles game pointless, so it doesn't matter. It won't hurt me as much if the Eagles lose their game if the Bears win. But no, the Lions went in, they played spoiler, and that just made the Eagles' loss, spoiler alert, that much more devastating for me. I injected 27 marijuanas in my ass. Speaking of marijuana injection-worthy games, Raiders versus the Colts. This was just one big shit show. Kenny Pickett throwing an interception, we're used to that, and then Chris Oladokun fumbling. I mean, this is Andy Reid's foolproof system here, right? What a fumble. And then look, here's another fumble, and then here's a, I mean, this is negative points right here to go up 11-6, and really all the action in this game basically happened in the final 5 minutes. The Raiders, being the Raiders, fumbled the kickoff, which then gave the Chiefs the ball back in short field position, but because the Chiefs suck, they kicked a field goal only. But then finally there was some actual good offense. By the way, as I'm saying this, the quarterback throwing this pass is not on the Chiefs roster anymore. That's how bad the Chiefs were, and that's how terrible Andy Reid's offense is at this point. But still, Harrison Butker made a kick to give the Chiefs somehow a lead with a minute left, but then Aiden O'Connell, wearing the jersey that Todd Marinovich made famous, led the Raiders down, and the Raiders kicked a 60-yard game-winning field goal to win the game 14-12. There were no touchdowns scored in this game, and Pete Carroll, after just one season with the Raiders, has been fired. Pete Carroll really has one of the weirdest careers of any head coach I can ever think of, if you really want to look at it, but I don't right now. Broncos Chargers. A wild Trey Lance has appeared, and he still sucks dick, as evidenced by this pick 6. But you know who else sucks? Bo Nix. Although Bo Nix is actually somewhat capable of looking good occasionally, although there was no such thing in this game. I mean, this is just laughable. Trey Lance, he has to be one of the worst draft choices ever. He'd be talked about so much more if not for Brock Purdy, but I mean, this was just a terrible performance all around. 4th and 7, you throw the ball 10 yards short of the sticks. The Broncos won this game, scoring 12 points offensively. The only good part was getting to see Sean Payton's trademark lesbian run, going out to midfield to shake hands with Jim Harbaugh after the game. Patriots versus the Florida A&M Community College Dolphins. Here's Drake May's MVP case in one clip, handing the ball off and watching his running back run for a lot of yards. Oh wow, another handoff. This is MVP worthy shit. Look at how Drake May stands out there. I mean, he took one step and boom, another touchdown run. The Dolphins then did the equivalent of a dead cat bump, which is they faked like they were going to make this game somewhat interesting with a touchdown and then proceeded to do literally nothing. The only time this game somewhat looked interesting ended when Quinn Ewers threw a terrible end zone interception. God, this just reeks of the Brady era Patriots with all this fucking weird, stupid turnover shit that their opponents do. God, I fucking hate them. Anyway, here's more clips of Drake May's running backs doing the heavy lifting, and then Drake May, he is capable of throwing to wide open receivers, as we see here, before handing the ball off again for another long touchdown run. I mean, the level of handoffs that Drake May was executing in this game is a level of greatness we've never seen before, as the Patriots defeated the Miami Community College Chess Club 38-10 to finish the season 14-3. Bills versus Jets. Oh wow, here's Mitch Trubisky carving up the Jets. Isn't that basically an automatic way to win MVP, I was told? Yeah, this game was just pathetic. As you all know by now, probably, the Jets finished this season with 0 interceptions. All season long, they forced just 4 turnovers total, which is also an NFL record, while they allowed Mitch Trubisky to look like the greatest quarterback of all time. I mean, this was just really sad, even by Jets standards. It wasn't even competitive. Here's a touchdown, which is basically the NFL equivalent of Chris Paul hitting a 3 to cut it to 40. And this was also the final game that will ever be played in Highmark Stadium by the Bills. It was a very emotional moment. My one question is, how are they going to find all the space to move those championship banners to their next home? I mean, my goodness, it's just so emotional. I'm crying as I say say this. Commanders versus Eagles. Okay, here we go. Fuck. The game started playing out like I thought it would. I really thought the Eagles were going to come in here and win this game decisively, especially since I was told by a lot of other people that Tanner McKee is the second coming of Christ and better than Jalen Hurts. Eagles went up 7-0, and then the Commanders tied the game up at 7, and then the Eagles had multiple opportunities, golden chances, late in the first half to expand the lead, and they shit down their leg, throwing an interception in the red zone, and the Commanders did everything they could to give the Eagles this game. The Eagles took a lead 14-10 off a Tank Bigsby touchdown run. This guy's averaging 6 yards per carry this year, and he only gets the ball like 5 times a game. Fast forward to fourth quarter, Eagles are up 17-10. The Commanders tie the game at 17, and then 3rd and 4, drop punt. And then look at this. Keely Ringo, what the fuck are you doing, buddy? I mean, what is this? What are you doing? Oh my God, this is brutal. And then 4th and 3, season in the balance. Tanner McKee airmails a pass to a wide open receiver, but they would get the ball back one more time, and it's gone as Tanner McKee would get sacked, and then he would throw the ball out of bounds. And then finally, Steelers versus Ravens. The final game of the season was also in contention for the best game of the season. It started out with a long touchdown pass from Lamar Jackson to go up 7-0, and the first half was largely uneventful until the very end when the Steelers ran a pitch play to Kenneth Gainwell on the final play of the first half instead of kicking a field goal, and ended up backfiring on them. But then Aaron Rodgers, God, there's nobody has ever thrown a football better than Aaron Rodgers. I'm telling you, he throws his pass to Adam Thielen, literally 77 years of combined age on this reception. And then the Steelers did a little tush-push touchdown to tie the game at 10. Lamar then threw a batted interception, which went to stabbing survivor TJ Watt, but then the Steelers couldn't get it in the end zone, but they kicked a field goal to go up by 3 entering the fourth quarter, and then that's where shit got wild. 3rd and 4, unbelievable play by Lamar Jackson to escape this double team, and then he throws a deep pass to Zay Flowers for a touchdown. This was Jacoby Jones, Raheem Moore 2.0, unbelievable play. But then Aaron Rodgers, so many times in his career, he hasn't come up in the clutch in spots like this, but he did in this one, finding Pat Freiermuth. And then 3rd and goal, Kenneth Gainwell, Super Bowl 59 champion with the Eagles, scored a touchdown, but the craziness was just beginning. On 3rd and 1, Lamar, another coverage breakdown. Zay Flowers goes for another long touchdown. How does this happen? Putting the Ravens back up by 4 points. But then Aaron Rodgers, coolly and calmly, led the Steelers down the field. And then on the 3rd and 10, with a minute left, another coverage breakdown to a wide open receiver to go up by 2. Everyone assumed it was going to be a 3-point lead, but no, Chris Boswell, the normally reliable kicker, missed the kick, which left the door open for the Ravens, and a wild final drive. After a good kickoff return, Lamar did a great job just getting this ball out of bounds to even avoid a super 4th and long. But then on 4th and 7, Lamar makes another great throw to Isaiah Likely, which sets up the Ravens in perfect position for a game-winning field goal. The game and the season came down to this 44-yard field goal, and Tyler Loop, more like Tyler Poop, pushed it wide. The Steelers and Aaron Rodgers are in the playoffs, while the Ravens are out of it. For all the shit and the jokes I give the Steelers and Mike Tomlin, I have to admit, the Steelers and Ravens always seem to put on a good show. If I was the Ravens, now I move on from Jim Harbaugh, and I fire Billy Cundiff Jr. from the kicking spot.